Well, I woke up this morning to the Trump administration trying to get permission from an appellate court to let them abuse First Amendment protesters, members of the press, members of the clergy, in violation of the Constitution. On one hand, they're running to court in the United States Supreme Court and begging for permission to starve Americans and deny them their SNAP payments. On the other hand, in the same 24-hour breath, they run to the Seventh Circuit to try to get out from under a preliminary injunction that was issued by Judge Ellis after a several-day trial in which all she did was tell them to comply with the Constitution. Sure, she listed all the military weaponry and riot gear that they're misusing on the streets of Chicago against normal First Amendment protesters. There is no evidence that anything is preventing ICE from continuing to arrest and detain and process migrants pursuant to Donald Trump's depraved policy. But there is plenty of evidence, including evidence supplied by the Trump administration, that the officers on the street are abusing with riot gear, with pepper spray, with tear gas, with non-lethal rubber bullets, firing them indiscriminately, tackling people, arresting people who are doing nothing more than expressing their First Amendment rights. So here we have a case where the Trump administration is running to court claiming separation of powers infringement. Oh, the president needs the ability to tackle and tear gas Americans on domestic soil. Won't you give us permission? Seventh Circuit, which had sided with the Trump administration in an earlier matter involving this judge, put a pause on it and said, yeah, we're not ready to grant a stay on the injunction that Judge Ellis has entered. Let's see your briefing. We'll come back to you. I'm with you right now. I'm Michael Popok. You're on Legal AF on Tuesday. Let's get down to catching you up on the case in Chicago, this one involving Judge Ellis. Judge Ellis, a Biden appointee. The case is called Chicago Headline Club, Journalists and Others versus Kristi Noem. Now, you may recall there's another Chicago judge who issued an injunction concerning the deployment of the National Guard, and that's up on appeal and with the United States Supreme Court. This has to do not with the National Guard, but federal security officers and ICE officers manhandling, abusing, assaulting, and battering Americans. Journalists, clergy people, veterans, and others who are exercising their classic First Amendment right, core First Amendment speech. The judge issued a preliminary injunction. She held an hour-and-a-half hearing last week in which she read her order, but this is the actual injunction. It's 8 pages, and it's going to make your hair stand on end. I'm going to read it for you. I'm going to post it on Legal AF Substack in terms of the things that she needs to tell law enforcement and Trump's shock forces not to do to other Americans. And then I'll tell you where we are with the Seventh Circuit and the emergency motion for stay that was filed in the last day by the Trump administration and the Seventh Circuit's response. You'll get it all right here. Take a minute, hit the free subscribe button. We're going to crash through that 1 million subscriber threshold that puts us on the top of the charts for law and politics with your help. Check to see now if you are a member, a subscriber, and if you're not, hit that button. All right, let's talk about the preliminary injunction order that kicks it off. 8 pages. It is hereby ordered that defendants, that's the Trump administration, and federal agents are enjoined in this judicial district, meaning in Chicago, in the Eastern District of in the Eastern Division of the Northern District of Illinois. First, interactions with journalists. Now think about this. She has to actually say this out loud because it's happening on the streets. We've seen the videos. Dispersing, arresting, threatening to arrest, threatening or using physical force against person with whom they know or reasonably should know is a journalist, unless the federal agents have probable cause to believe that the individual has committed a crime unrelated to failing to disperse. Let me show you a clip that we're talking about of journalists and others being attacked by federal officers in Chicago. Let's run the clip.
What's your name? What's your name?
Debbie Brockman. I work for WGN. Let them know.
I got you. Yep. Debbie Browning?
Brockman.
Sir, what's your name? In the back. What's your name? Say that one more time. What's your name? ¿Qué nombre? Sí. ¿Cómo se llama? Sí.
One, two, three, fascist. F***ing piece of shit fascists. That's what you both, all three of you are. Hope you're proud of yourselves. Stand up.
Stand up, man. A little out of breath today, huh, fellas?
Super good at your jobs, aren't you? Super f***ing good at your jobs. Take the mask down. Mask down. Oh, you guys get that?
How about using riot gear? Using riot control weapons, including kinetic impact projectiles, compressed air launchers, capsium spray, that's tear gas, CN gas, chemical irritants, controlled noise and light distraction devices, electronic control weapons on any member of the class, which she's certified as being the journalist of the First Amendment protestors, unless such force is objectively necessary to stop the person from causing an immediate threat of physical harm. This is all constitutional. This is all just telling them they need to abide by the Constitution. But just the fact that they're using this type of riot gear on the streets is makes me uncomfortable. Let's just put it that way. Using riot control weapons. Listen to this one. After a long list of air launchers and gas canisters and other things, she has to actually tell the police, the law enforcement here, the federal law enforcement on page 3, that they're not allowed to strike a class member with a vehicle. Yeah, you can't hit them with your car or your truck unless such force is objectively necessary to stop an immediate threat of the person causing serious bodily injury. She also says in little j, you can't use hands-on physical force, such as pulling over or shoving to the ground, tackling, or body slamming any class member who's not an immediate threat. Let's play a clip of that happening. She continues, you can't use chokeholds, carotid restraints, neck restraints, or any other restraint technique that applies prolonged pressure to the neck to restrict blood flow. What country do we live in? I just heard Carolyn Levitt, the press secretary, say a version of, oh, well, we don't live in communist Venezuela, you know, the way people are treated in justification for pardons. How about how people are treated by the Trump administration who are Americans on the streets of Chicago? How about that? And then she says that they need the cops, when I say the cops, I mean the federal agents, need to wear identification, even if they're undercover. They need to wear body-worn cameras, also need to be worn as well. And the preliminary injunction is entered, she says, on the 6th of November at 11:48 a.m. and shall remain pending further proceedings in the court. That led the Trump administration about 4 days later, to file their emergency motion for stay. Permission, please, to attack Americans. What they're arguing is the group that is seeking the injunction don't have standing. They don't belong in court. I think they're going to lose on that. And that this court is an example of an out of control. Here's what they say. That in response to the government's efforts to enforce the nation's immigration laws after years of non-enforcement, I don't think we had non-enforcement during the Biden administration, an unprecedented wave of illegal immigration, courts have issued sweeping pragmatic injunctions that usurp executive authority and empower judges to superintend law enforcement activities under threat of contempt. So they're blaming, again, a single judge with sweeping prospective relief that's untethered from the Constitution and statutory provisions. They're basically saying that these people don't have standing to bring this case, so the judge didn't have the authority to issue the injunction, and the injunction improperly interferes with the executive branch in their execution of law, and that her findings were unjustified. They then go through the reasons why they think they should win, why they want the power to use this tremendous force against Americans, to hit them with cars, to hit them with tear gas, to hit journalists in the face, to tackle people from behind. This is what they're seeking. I want it to be clear. I'm going to post this injunction in this motion to oppose the injunction in Substacks. You can read it for yourself. Now, what's the Seventh Circuit done? Now, I was a little concerned about the Seventh Circuit because recently they came out against Judge Ellis when she found that Greg Bovino, a chief patrol agent for the U.S. Customs and Border Protection, and had him report on the use of force activities each day to her at the end of the day. They ran into court and got the Seventh Circuit to issue a mandamus order to stop that. Here's what the Seventh Circuit said last week on October 31st to stop Judge Ellis trying to police federal law enforcement in that way. They said, while this litigation presents very challenging circumstances, the district court's order has two failings. First, it puts the court in the position of an inquisitor rather than that of a neutral adjudicator of the parties' adversarial presentations. Second, it sets the court up as a supervisor of Chief Bovino's activities, intruding into personnel management decisions of the executive branch. These two problems are related and lead us to conclude that the order infringes on the separation of powers. So that's what the Trump administration is relying on, that they'll find that this injunction on the evidence that she has adduced is too much of an infringement on the executive branch. She needs to wait for violations and then deal with them in her courtroom, not try to prevent them with orders. I don't like that approach if that's how the Seventh Circuit's going to come out. So the Seventh Circuit wants full briefing by this Thursday. They're not going to grant the stay for now. So as of right now, this injunction is in place, this preliminary injunction to stop the use of force in this way on the streets, which means the government could violate it. And we'll have to see what the Seventh Circuit does after full briefing. I'm sure they'll hold some sort of emergency hearing, or they will issue an order sometime Friday over the weekend, maybe on Monday. We'll cover it here on Legal AF. These stories are the reasons you need to be here with us on Legal AF. Hit the subscribe button. Come over to Legal AF Substack, where you can read the preliminary injunction order. You can read the order about the prior rulings of Judge Ellis, and you can read the emergency motion that was just filed, as well as my commentary around it. So until my next report, I'm Michael Popok. I'm Michael Popok, and I got some big news for our audience. Most of you know me as the co-founder of Midas Touches Legal AF and the Legal AF YouTube channel, or as a 35-year national trial lawyer. Now, building on what we started together on Legal AF, I've launched a new law firm, the Popok Firm, dedicated to obtaining justice through compassionate and zealous legal representation. At the Popok Firm, we are focused on obtaining justice for those who have been injured or damaged by a life-altering event, by securing the highest dollar recoveries. I've been tirelessly fighting for justice for the last 35 years, so my own law firm organically building on my Legal AF work just feels right. And I've handpicked a team of top-tier trial fighters and settlement experts throughout all 50 states known as big auto injury attorneys who have the know-how to beat heartless insurance companies, corporations, government entities, and their attorneys. Big Auto's attorneys working with my firm are rock stars in their respective states, and collectively responsible for billions of dollars in recoveries. So if you or a loved one have been on the wrong side of a catastrophic auto, motor vehicle, rideshare, or truck accident, suffered a personal injury, or been the victim of medical malpractice, employment harassment or discrimination, or suffered a violation of your civil and constitutional rights, then contact the Popok Firm today at 1-877-POPOK-AF or by visiting my website at www.thepopokfirm.com and fill out a free case evaluation form. And if we determine that you have a case and you sign with us, we don't get paid unless you do. The Popok Firm, fighting for your justice every step of the way.